I want to share something with you tonight that, once genuinely understood, changes not merely what you believe is possible, but the entire texture of how you move through your days. This is not a technique to add to other techniques. It is a different understanding of time, of reality, and of what you actually are. And from that different understanding, everything else follows. Let us begin with the world. Your physical senses report to you. This world, solid, sequential, governed by cause, moving slowly into effect, is not the primary reality. It is a shadow, a reflection cast by something more fundamental, the world of imagination, which is not fantasy, but the actual creative substance from which the visible world continually arises. William Blake said this more beautifully than I can. Imagination is the real and eternal world of which the physical universe is but a faint shadow. I want you to hold that statement seriously tonight, not as poetry, but as a precise description of the structure of reality. Here is a claim that may sound, on first hearing, almost too generous to be true. Whatever you desire already exists. Not as something you must build from nothing through sustained effort, not as something that must be earned through a long process of becoming worthy. It exists right now as one among the infinite array of possible states that constitute what I call the dimensionally larger world, the vast field of all that can be, all that could be experienced, all states available to consciousness, existing simultaneously rather than waiting to be sequentially constructed. Your task, then, is not creation in the sense of manufacturing something from nothing, it is selection. You are not building your desire from raw materials. You are choosing it from among the possibilities that already constitute the structure of reality and bringing your consciousness into alignment with it. This may sound abstract, so let me make it concrete. Imagine every possible version of your life already existing, not hypothetically, but actually, in the dimension where imagination is the governing reality rather than the physical senses. The version of you who has already achieved the work you are striving toward, the version who already enjoys the health you are seeking, the version already living inside the relationship you long for. All of these versions exist, fully formed, in the eternal present of consciousness. The question that determines your experience is simply, which version are you currently identifying with? Which one are you, through your habitual feeling and assumption, selecting as your own? The mechanism of this selection is imagination not used loosely as daydream, but engaged precisely as the faculty through which consciousness connects with and chooses among the possibilities available to it. When you imagine your desire fulfilled, truly imagine it, with the sensory vividness and emotional conviction that makes the scene feel inhabited rather than merely pictured, you are not inventing something new. You are tuning your consciousness, the way a radio receiver is tuned, to a particular frequency that was already present, waiting to be received. The station was already broadcasting. You simply were not, until this moment, tuned to receive it. This is why the feeling matters so completely, far more than the mental picture alone. A picture without feeling is like a radio dial, set near the station but not quite on it. You catch fragments, static, an incomplete signal. The feeling is what brings the tuning into full alignment. When you genuinely feel the reality of your desire fulfilled, not performed emotion, but the actual, settled, bodily sense of already being the person for whom this is true, you have completed the tuning. You have selected the state. And the physical world, which always expresses what consciousness has selected, begins the process of confirming it. I want to address something that troubles the rational mind whenever it first encounters this teaching, the question of time. In ordinary experience, time moves sequentially. The future has not happened. The present is happening now. The past has already happened and cannot be revisited. This sequential structure feels so absolute that it is difficult to imagine any alternative. But this sequential structure belongs to the physical world of effects, the shadow world, the world your senses report. It does not belong to the world of imagination, which is the primary world, the world from which the shadow is cast. In that deeper realm, all states exist together, in what might be called an eternal present, a now that contains simultaneously what physical experience experiences as past, present, and future. This is not mysticism for its own sake. It has an entirely practical consequence, and I want you to grasp it clearly. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are not creating a future event that will eventually arrive after a delay. You are entering, right now, into a state that already exists in the eternal present of consciousness. In the only dimension where this matters most, your desire is not pending, it is accomplished. What remains is simply for the physical world, which always lags behind consciousness, expressing what has already occurred there, to catch up and confirm what you have already, in the deeper sense, received. This is the meaning behind living in the end, not waiting for an outcome, occupying an outcome that, in the eternal now, has already occurred. I want to address directly something that troubles sincere people who have tried this teaching and found it produces little. There is an enormous difference between wishing for something and assuming the feeling of its fulfillment, and the difference is not subtle once you know what to look for. Wishing keeps the desire at a distance. It says, in its essential structure, I do not have this, and I want it. Every act of wishing, however heartfelt, reinforces the present absence of the thing wished for. It is an honest report of lack, repeated and thereby strengthened. Living from the end says something entirely different. This is already so. It does not deny the current appearance of lack in the physical world, but it refuses to let that appearance determine the inner state. It occupies, deliberately and with genuine feeling, the consciousness of one for whom the desire is no longer a desire at all, because it has already been received. If you have practiced visualization or affirmation and found no result, examine honestly which of these two you were actually doing. Were you picturing your desire while still, underneath, feeling its absence? Were you repeating words while the settled conviction beneath them remained one of doubt? This is wishing, dressed in the language of manifestation. The correction is not more effort applied to the same wishing. It is the genuine shift into living from the end into feeling, not merely picturing, the state of already having received. The old teaching to pray without ceasing is, I believe, frequently misunderstood. It is not an instruction to repeat verbal petitions endlessly throughout the day. Properly understood, it describes the sustained occupation of a particular inner state, the feeling, held continuously rather than only in dedicated moments of practice, that what you desire is already yours. This sustained feeling is your actual creative work, and it must be sustained through whatever interval exists between the inner shift and its outer confirmation, an interval that varies, sometimes brief, sometimes extended, but which is never evidence that the law has failed. Here is where detachment becomes essential, and I want to be precise about what detachment actually means, because it is often confused with indifference. Detachment is not failing to care about your desire. It is the absence of anxious monitoring, the absence of constantly checking the outer world for confirmation, which itself betrays and reinforces the very lack you are trying to move beyond. There is an old instruction: be still and know. This stillness is not passivity. It is the quiet confidence of someone who has done the essential inner work and does not need to anxiously verify it, because they understand that verification is not how this process operates. You do not dig up the seed to check on its progress. You water it, and you trust the law that governs all growth, visible and invisible. When you genuinely understand that your desire has already been received, in the dimension where reception actually occurs, anxious checking becomes simply unnecessary, not suppressed, unnecessary. The fundamental relationship between you and your desire changes from longing to quiet certainty. And from quiet certainty, the most extraordinary thing happens. You become, in Neville's words, impervious to discouragement. Not because circumstances no longer matter, but because circumstances are understood correctly as the shadow, and a shadow's flickering does not disturb someone who has stopped mistaking the shadow for the source of light. I want to clear up a misconception that arises whenever this teaching is presented, that it asks for passivity, for sitting back and waiting for the universe to deliver. It asks for nothing of the kind, but it transforms entirely the character of the action that follows. When you have genuinely entered the state of your wish fulfilled, not performed it briefly and then abandoned it, but increasingly lived from it, you will find yourself moved to act. These actions will not feel like effort applied against resistance. They will feel inspired, almost inevitable, as though something larger than your ordinary calculating mind is directing your steps. This is in fact precisely what is occurring. By assuming the state of fulfillment, you have aligned yourself with a wisdom that exceeds the conscious mind's limited field of vision, a wisdom that can perceive connections and pathways your everyday awareness cannot. This is the true meaning of the old instruction to seek first the kingdom, to prioritize the inner state above the anxious management of external action. Establish the inner state first, with genuine feeling and persistence, and the right actions will present themselves at the right moments, requiring far less force than the actions taken from a place of lack and desperate effort ever could. A question arises naturally from sincere people. What happens when what I desire seems to require something that someone else also desires? Does my fulfillment come at another's expense? I want to address this directly, because the fear of selfishness keeps many people from imagining boldly, and that hesitation is itself a kind of self-limitation born from a misunderstanding. In the dimensionally larger world, the realm of pure possibility from which all things are selected, there is no scarcity and therefore no genuine conflict. Limitation and competition belong to the physical world of effects, the shadow world, which is finite and therefore subject to the appearance of scarcity. But the source from which all things proceed is not finite. It is the inexhaustible field of infinite possibility, capable of fulfilling every genuine desire of every consciousness simultaneously, without depletion, without one person's good requiring another's loss. When you assume the state of your fulfillment, you are not removing anything from anyone else's experience. You are selecting your own version from the infinite field, and that selection does not subtract from the field available to others. This understanding should free you from the hesitation that keeps so many sincere people imagining only modestly, apologizing for their own desires, careful not to want too much for fear of taking something from someone else. There is no need for this caution. Imagine fully, imagine boldly. The field from which you are selecting has no bottom. I want to draw your attention to something that lies beneath the specific things you might be seeking: the money, the relationship, the position, the recovery, because addressing this directly often accomplishes more than addressing each desire individually. The principle of assumption does not apply only to specific external circumstances. It applies equally to states of being, to the quality of love, joy, and peace through which you experience your entire life, independent of any particular circumstance. If what you most deeply want is not a specific thing, but a different quality of inner experience, more peace, more genuine joy, a deeper capacity for love, the principle operates identically. Assume the feeling of being peaceful. Assume the feeling of being joyful, of being someone for whom love flows naturally and abundantly. Live from these states, persistently, the way you would live from any other assumed state. And you will find, as you persist, that the entire texture of your experience begins to shift, not because external circumstances rearrange themselves first, but because the lens through which you perceive every circumstance has changed. There is something further worth noting here. As you elevate the state from which you are living, moving from anxious, wanting towards settled, joyful being, you will often find that the specific things you once desired arrive almost as an afterthought, no longer carrying the same urgent weight they once did. This is not disappointment. It is a sign that you have aligned with something more fundamental than the particular desire itself, the creative source from which all particular desires arise, and which, once recognized directly, makes the particular acquisitions feel like natural extensions rather than desperate necessities. I want to close with the deepest layer of what I have been describing tonight, because the technique, however correctly practiced, finds its full power only when understood in light of this. When I say that everything you want is about to appear all at once, I am not merely describing an acceleration of the manifestation process. I am pointing to something more fundamental. The recognition that you already possess, in your essential nature, everything you have ever sought through external acquisition. The kingdom, as the old teaching says, is within you. This is not poetic comfort. It is a precise description of where the source of every fulfillment actually resides. The wealth, the love, the health, the peace you have been seeking outwardly are not separate from your own consciousness, waiting in some external location to be found and claimed. They exist already as possibilities within the creative power that you yourself are. Your work has never been to travel toward them across some external distance. It has been to recognize and select them, to align your consciousness through genuine feeling and sustained assumption with what was already, in the deepest sense, yours. When this recognition becomes settled rather than occasional, when you live, as a matter of course, from the understanding that you are the creative power individualized, capable of selecting from infinite possibility rather than petitioning a separate universe for scraps of it, your entire relationship with desire transforms. You no longer desire from lack. You desire as an expression of abundance already recognized. The way a fountain that knows itself to be inexhaustible does not anxiously calculate how much water it can afford to give. This is the promise contained in what I have shared with you tonight. Not that specific things are about to arrive, though many will, but that you are about to recognize fully, settledly, as the operating truth of your daily experience, that you already are everything you could ever want to be. And in that recognition, desire itself is transfigured. It stops being a confession of insufficiency and becomes, instead, simply the natural creative movement of a consciousness that has remembered what it is. Go forth, then, not anxiously seeking what you lack, but quietly recognizing what you have always, in truth, possessed. Live from this recognition. Persist in it through whatever interval the physical world requires to catch up to what your consciousness has already selected. And watch, with the calm wonder of someone who has finally understood the actual structure of their own experience, as your world rearranges itself to confirm what was, in the eternal now, already and always true. Good evening. What you seek is not approaching from somewhere distant. It is already present, in the only place anything has ever truly been, your own consciousness, waiting only to be recognized.